What's going on YouTube? So the Toyota Highlander and Nissan Pathfinder are two SUVs that have a long history here in the US, even if they weren't always direct competitors. In recent years, the Highlander's popularity has only been growing, while the Pathfinder kind of lost its way. But that's all changing this year with this all-new 2022 Pathfinder. So is this completely reinvented Pathfinder ready to take down the perennial bestseller? Let's go ahead and find out. So like always, the first thing on the agenda is to talk about the pricing and equipment. For this test, we picked upper end models that also have the sportier looking design elements. For the all-new Pathfinder, that's going to be the SL trim with the premium package and a few other options. With destination, it costs $45,890. Moving to the Highlander, the trim that lines up design and price-wise is the XSE. It starts a bit more expensive and finishes that way as well, after we factor in a few options and the destination charge. The total price is $47,185. So that gives us a small price difference of just about $1,300. Even though that's not much, we will revisit that later on in the video in the value section. But now let's jump right into the video with the exteriors, which look very different in just about every way. The XSE is a new addition to the Highlander lineup, and it looks very different from the regular model with a more aggressive front design and much larger grille. By comparison, the new Pathfinder is going for a tougher look, with a squared-off design that is nothing like the previous generation. Punctuating the grilles are full LED headlights on both models, as well as LED fog lamps at the bottom. Checking out the sides, the Pathfinder has a couple inches of length advantage since the Highlander is one of the smaller offerings in the class. I also want to point out that it's available in a two-tone paint scheme, which is a cool touch that the Toyota doesn't offer. As far as the wheels, both have sporty-looking 20-inch alloys. Going to the back, again they look very different from one another, with the Highlander having the sleeker look and the Pathfinder the more rugged design. But outside of appearance, both of them have partially LED taillights and roof rails up top, though only the Highlander has exposed exhaust tips. Now moving to some of the other features, both models have heated mirrors with blind spot indicators. And in addition to BSM, both brands also throw in the full suite of safety systems, including automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and auto high beam headlights. Another similar area is the warranties, which are the same for both basic and powertrain. However, only Toyota is throwing in 2 years of complimentary maintenance. Finally, the last thing to mention on the outside is the 1,000-pound towing advantage that the Pathfinder has, at 6,000 pounds versus 5,000 pounds. Alright, so that's it for the exteriors. So now let's check out the even more important cabins before we take them out on a spin. So strolling up to the SUVs, both have smart entry, but only the Pathfinder has remote start on the fob without a subscription. Now opening up the doors, you'll be greeted by two spacious and luxurious spaces. On the new Pathfinder, we have real leather finished in gray, while the Highlander opts for a sportier but less premium leatherette and cloth combination seat in black. As far as the seats themselves, both are 10-way power adjusting and have heating at this price point. Ventilation and memory are available on higher end models. Now like I mentioned, these are modern and nice looking cabins, which are made from good materials, though the Pathfinder has the edge. It uses a combo of soft touch plastic and leatherette in all the areas you touch, while the Highlander has a couple areas of hard touch plastic above the gauges and along the center console. Additionally, its door trim is not as premium. So after starting them up, they have very similar gauge clusters with 7-inch multi-function displays. Digital gauges and head-up displays require the fully loaded models. And coming back to the steering wheels, both are leather wrapped and manual adjusting, but only the Nissan's is heated. Alright, so now let's get to the very important aspect of interior storage, where these are two of the best products in the class. Both have massive, wide, and deep center consoles, and large front bins with areas for keeping loose objects and phones. Plus, the Pathfinder throws in a large center pass-through, and the Highlander a storage shelf that runs across the entire dash. Both also have wireless phone charging pads. Moving on to the shifters, the Toyota has a traditional one and the Nissan an electronic one. That notwithstanding, the Nissan has a definite advantage here since it has a 360-degree camera with active guidelines, while the Toyota has a regular camera with fixed lines. Beyond that, we have 3-zone automatic climate control systems, as well as volume knobs for the audio systems, so let's go ahead and give them a sample. Even though the Nissan does technically have more speakers, the Toyota system has a bit more richness to the sound, as well as substantially better bass. And now that brings us to the main infotainment systems. Starting off with the sizes, the Highlander's measures in at 8 inches, and the Pathfinder's at 9. They both have navigation, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay, though only the Nissan can connect wirelessly. Up top, both have auto-dimming mirrors with HomeLink, but the Highlander's is the more modern frameless design. And finally, both of them have moonroofs, but the Pathfinder will give you a panoramic one instead of a regular sized unit. Okay, but moving on to the rear areas for the family, both of them are offering very generous accommodations as expected. Let's start with the space, where the Highlander has the advantage. While the difference appears larger than it actually is on paper due to the different measurement methods from the different brands, the Highlander definitely does win when it comes to legroom. Now as far as the features, both of them have reclining captain's chairs, rear sunshades, their own climate zones with vents, and 2 USB ports. Where the difference comes into play is the fact that the Pathfinder has an innovative removable center console with storage, as well as heated rear seats. Moving on to the third row of seats, both crossovers have a very convenient one-touch folding and sliding mechanism to give you a nice pathway. And once in the third row, you'll find very similar leg and headroom measurements, though the Pathfinder seats are a little higher off the ground, which increases thigh support. Now checking around the rear, obviously both have power tailgates, and once they open up, you'll find nice and large cargo capacities for the class. While the Pathfinder has a slight advantage behind the third row, the Toyota ends up having more space behind the second row, as well as a maximum capacity. Alright, so that's it for the interiors, but now we still have to take them out on the road and see which one is better there. So with the previous generation Pathfinder, Nissan took a lot of flack for the powertrain. So for this new generation, they made it much more similar to rivals such as the Highlander. Both models have 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 engines, which make very similar power figures at 284 and 295 horsepower. As expected, they feel very similar as far as acceleration is concerned. At 60 miles per hour. So acceleration for this new Pathfinder feels pretty strong. We do actually have a carryover engine from the outgoing generation, so it's going to be Nissan's venerable 3.5-liter VQ V6 engine, and it's making 284 horsepower, 259 pound-feet of torque. That kind of positions it right in the middle of the competition. So pretty much the same as all the main stuff that you'll be cross-shopping it with, like the Pilot and the Highlander, Palisade, stuff like that. Pretty nice, yeah. That felt really quite swift. We are going a bit downhill, but no, that still felt really good for this class of vehicle. But the biggest news is that the Pathfinder CVT is gone, and now replaced with a ZF 9-speed automatic transmission. This is a huge improvement, though the Highlander's 8-speed automatic is still a bit more responsive to quick throttle changes. But let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Oh yeah.
We have a transmission, a standard automatic transmission.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you guys really just don't care for the CVT. And, you know, especially in a bigger application like the previous generation Pathfinder, having a CVT is less than ideal for sure.
Oh yeah.
Really killed the performance of this model. But we now have a 9-speed automatic transmission. You know, this is a nice and powerful sounding engine as well.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the transmission, you have an 8-speed automatic on board. Really good transmission. They haven't really made any changes to it per se for the XSE. But it continues, you know, to basically blend into the background and do a good job. As already mentioned, they both have all-wheel drive as equipped. However, I do want to point out the fact that the Highlander can also be had with a 36 mpg hybrid system for a small price premium, which is definitely a nice option to have. Of course, comfort is the real name of the game with these two, and behind the wheel they handle rough roads amazingly, with little to no impacts penetrating the cabin. That being said, when going around corners, the Pathfinder exhibits more body roll, because its suspension is tuned looser to achieve that ride. So I went ahead and knocked it into sport mode, so I could comment on one of the other XSE updates, and that's the steering. Has been, you know, updated to be a little bit sportier, a little bit firmer and quicker responding. I have to say, you can tell. So we kind of round this corner here. You can see, you know, good body control for something as big as this is. Also, you know, the steering is very quick responding. You know, obviously it's not like a sports car or anything like that, but it has good feel to it, one of the better in the class. Additionally, they are very quiet inside of the cabins. They both score good numbers, but the Pathfinder has the edge even when considering the Highlander's reading was taken on a very windy day.
And let's go ahead and get that sound sample.
Flash flood warning in about 35.8 miles from current location.
Why does it keep saying that?
We're looking at 53.1. The navigation here is trying to blab and ruin the sound sample, but I got it before. 53.1. Looks like we're going to be sitting at around 57 decibels.
And finally, finishing up this part, both of them get excellent fuel economy for 3-row crossovers at 23 mpg combined. Now before we end this video, we need to quickly assess the value proposition. The Nissan is $1,295 less expensive than the Highlander, so we'll add a half point to its score based on our price bracket. So there you have it. These two Japanese powerhouse brands duked it out with their very strong 3-row offerings. Ultimately, today the Pathfinder came out on top. But both have their strengths and weaknesses, so we'd strongly encourage you check out both of them in person if you're in the market. Also, let us know in the comments which option you would choose. Anyways, thanks for joining us for this car confections comparison. And we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel to keep seeing more comparison videos like this one, as well as our signature full review videos. Take care and stay safe out there.